to be here, Lennon. I'm so really happy to be here to share my story and to share with people how they can use storytelling in whatever they are doing. Because as we come to understand, storytelling is at the center of everything that we do in life. There is no person or no people who do not use story or who have not been using story to build up what they do. Of course, what I'm saying in this book or in what I am doing is that we need to be more conscious of how we use a story. We're not talking about just occupying our time. We're not talking about just cock and bull story. We're trying to look for how we can have a better connection with our audience by telling them what they have always been used to, which is storytelling, because right from childhood, we have been listening to story. So that is sort of the premise of it. That's it. I'm originally from Nigeria, from the south of Nigeria, in a place that is called Uromi. It's part of ESA as a group of people. So I've been living in Italy since 2004. So at a point, I was trying to sort of understand the story of the people that look like me that I've come to meet here in northern Italy. I live in northern Italy in a city called Verona. So sometime in 2012, 2013, I started this research because by then, let me just back down a little bit. And when I got to Italy, it was really sort of difficult for me to be able to find myself in the social fabric of the society, in that for a number of years, I was illegal in this country. So for that, I was not able to go to school or to work or to do anything that I really wanted to do, because when I was leaving Africa to Europe, to Italy, my intention was that, when I get there, I'm going to study, I'm going to go to school, I will start working, then I will start having a better life. Only that when I got here, it was really challenging for me. It wasn't possible for me to enter into the fabric of the society because I was illegal. By that, it means I was invisible. So I couldn't apply for a job, I couldn't go to school. So one time I met a Nigerian author who came from Milan to Verona, the city where I am. I think he came to present his book. So in the course of the conversation, he told me that, well, if you want, you could actually go online and enroll for a course if you want to improve yourself. Because of course, I have complained to him of how I was living my life here and what I would have loved to do. Because right from Nigeria, I have been writing. I wrote my first book there, which I published. Then I sold all the copy actually before I left Nigeria. So based on his recommendation, I enrolled in with London School of Journalism, which I completed in a short space of time. Then I enrolled again in another correspondent program. This was with New York Film School Direct, because then somebody have given me an editing program, which I installed on my computer, an old computer anyway. So I find it very interesting, the art of editing, of combining text and video and of sound and text, everything together, and it's become a movie picture. I really find it to be very interesting, but I wanted to learn more about it because now I know I cannot go to school, so I have to teach myself. So I was going online to find out more about it. So after I've gotten this first experience with London School of Journalism, where I got a diploma, so I went and researched. I found this school online called New York Film School Direct. They taught people about how to start with filmmaking, editing. I was interested in documentary because I wanted to move from text to video. I wanted to tell this story anyway, but I wanted to use a movie picture instead of just text. So that is how that is why I enrolled in this program. So when I finished, I just started the research. I said, okay, now that I understand a bit of how to move around in the documentary world, let me try and do the first one about the place where I am, which is Verona, Italy. So I just started to ask a lot of people different questions, trying to understand their story, where they are coming from. So this will take me a number of years to sort of put the story together, because from there, I will produce 2 documentaries, then I will produce also 2 books. Actually, yeah, 3 videos. Okay, yeah. I will then produce 2 books. One is the color of our children. The second one, the first one is the journey Africans in Verona. So what I learned in this in the course of this research period is that a story is really powerful. Actually, I got a confirmation that story is powerful, because now I'm putting the story of people together and I'm representing it back to them. So I'm sort of creating a product out of their experiences, and I can see the satisfaction that they find in it. I remember one time I went to give the book, when I published it, to one of the guys that I interviewed. I gave it to him. Of course, his picture was in the book. I could see how his face really grew. He was so happy, he was so satisfied, to see his face on a book where his stories was in also. Because at least for a very long time, we didn't have somebody come to him to sort of ask him, what is your opinion? Where did you come from? What is your story? But now,
to give him a voice.
he have the time to be able to tell his story, and he can have the book in front of him and share with people. I can see the satisfaction in him. And because I see he was satisfied, I also was satisfied. So that is sort of how I started the journey about my creative work here in Italy. Then it was last year, actually, that, of course, that is what led to Obehi podcast, where I sort of expand the conversation to other African diaspora, from US to UK to Canada, to different parts of the world, try to collect the experiences of Africa, try to understand what is going on where they are, how are they living their experiences as a diaspora. So last year, I have gathered all this experience. Maybe it's a good idea that I put what I've learned is as a book, so that other people can also leverage it in what they are doing. So
Absolutely.
that is how I came about the storytelling series. There are actually 5 books. Each of them is treating a separate argument within the area of storytelling. And my target is to sort of base it on how to use it within the area of business, how we can use storytelling in our businesses to sort of better connect with our audience and to earn more from what we are doing. Because as we come to understand, storytelling helps you to be able to connect with the people. And it is when you are able to connect with the people that you can do business with them. Otherwise, you are going to remain always on the superficial level.
You were guided. I would say that was divine guidance, because you were guided to use not just words but video and all the personalities coming together, all the media, to create what is now the Obehi podcast and your books and your whole system of storytelling and marketing and in business. So your story now, how do we translate, how do we take what you have learned and enhance what is out here now? Because social media is just that. There's all the platforms, TikTok, and there's Facebook, and Snapchat, and you name it. It's about telling a story. It's about putting something out there, whether they're marketing a product or service or just sharing. That is what you're doing. How does one get outside of themselves and be able to contribute in that manner?
All right. I would say that, okay, in my podcast, the Obehi podcast, I have a slogan that everyone has a story to share. Of course, this is based on the people that I've talked to, because when I come to analyze these hundreds of people that I've interviewed in different cities where I live, I could see that there is no one of them that don't have a background story, a deep story, an interesting story behind each and every one of them. from the little children to adult. At times, I went to school, universities. I went to school directors, parents, cultural centers, journalists, ordinary people, politicians. Each of them have a deep story, have a story behind what they do. So for maybe people like me out there in the diaspora who are sort of wondering, how can I leverage story in what I do? Or where should I start from? Well, I would say you need
Oh
to
yeah.
start
Or
from
which
where you are.
story should you tell?
What story should we tell?
Which story should you tell? Yes, because we have
Well,
several different stories.
yeah, there are a lot of stories, but the point, to answer the question as to which story should we tell, first of all, who do you want to tell the story to? I think that is where we need to start from. Because if you don't know who you are telling the story to, then you wouldn't know the kind of story to tell. And because when we are talking of business story, it's not like cock and bull story like I was saying before. It's not like the evening type of story. It's a story that is gauged with an objective, because you must have a specific aim in mind, in that there is something you want to come at the end of the day because of your story. You want something to happen at the end of your story. So your story or the business story is different in this sense. So for you to know what type of story you want to tell, the first question is, who do you want to tell the story to? Because you could even have one story. Of course, this I've also explained in the series, in the 5-part book series. You could have one story, but you could tell it in different ways, depending on who is the audience in front of you. So I think what people need to do first is to identify who they want to tell the story to. Then from there, tell the story based on the senses and sensibilities of those people they have in front of them. So that is where I will start. But based on my little experience, I would say, okay, say maybe, for example, the people you want to tell your story to are stay-at-home women in the diaspora, for example, who do not know where to start from. You could tell a story, for example, of how to start from not knowing where to start from to becoming something, or to be able to do something for yourself and also for your community. In this way, you're going to make some preamble, you're going to make some instances, you're going to give some examples. The reason why you need to know first who you are telling the story to is that the examples you are going to give, the preamble you are going to give, the instances you are going to give, the reference you are going to give is going to reflect those people. Otherwise, the story is not going to resonate with them. And if the story do not resonate with them, it's not going to work. So that is why I think it is important that we first of all know who are we telling the story to, in what circumstances, then we know what kind of story to tell. Because of course, all of us are full of stories. There are stories everywhere. It's just for us to pick which one, and for you to pick which one you want to tell, you need to know who do you want to tell the story to. In many cultures in Africa, for example, where people have been used to oral narration, in fact, in one of my books, I wrote it in 2016. And this book was accepted as a book to be read by students at the University of Verona. This is where I live, in 2016-2017 edition, a scholastic year. Now, the book is titled Amen the Stream Water. So in this book, I talk of storytelling. Now, I said at the point in this book, actually in the beginning of the book, that the storyteller in this book, every evening, he will tell story to the children. And he does this every evening. Of course, that provokes a question. What kind of story are you telling that you tell it every evening? Are you not finishing the story? If you are reading a book, you should finish to read it. But it is story. I said, even though he have finished to say everything he have to, there is nothing historically relevant that he want to, Okobuje is the name, want to tell the children that he didn't tell them yet, but he still continue to tell the story every evening. So what I want to say there is that it is not just the story you are telling that is important, but the rituals around it. that the people come together, you occupy a function for them, you keep them together, you manage to put something in the middle that hold both of you together. What you are doing is creating a connection. The people are connected to you, not necessarily the story. The story is a medium, it's a way for you to be able to connect. So I think this is what you should do if you were to use water as an example. Of course, everybody sells water. Everybody have water. I know everybody can be selling water, but your water is going to be different because you will place yourself in the story of how, for example, you started to sell water. How maybe, for example, somebody in your family or people in your community didn't have access to water. For this reason, you have made it a mission for you to supply water to everybody. You see, by maybe listening it like this, people can see the human connection in it, the intention deep inside of you. And there is nobody who does not have a family. There's nobody who have short of something in their life. And by you listening the story like this, you are helping them to reflect. So they connect to you. You are not going to give them the water for free. They are going to buy, but they buy knowing that there is a mission that you have. They want to be part of that mission. And you will be able to help them to understand this through the story that you are telling. When you come out to tell your story, or to reframe the story of others, because it's not that you must tell your story all the time. Sometimes you can also pick the story of other people, the one that you have seen somewhere, you are telling it, but you are putting yourself inside. When you do that, try to be real. Because the people will know that you are not real. It is very easy for them to know because the audience today are sophisticated. If you are lying to them, they will know. They might not tell you that you are lying to them, but they will know. And that will stop the connection. So it is good. It is a good thing that when we tell story, when we come around to share with people, we need to be honest with them. We need to be sincere with them. If you make mistake, say it that you make mistake. Be honest. You see, I often say the reason people don't hook on too much to art that are so sophisticated, instead hook up to the one that are simple, is that the one that are simple have error. Human beings have error. If everything is perfect, then I cannot connect to it because I'm not a perfect human being. If there are some error in it, maybe the way you say your thing, maybe the way that you write your thing, we can see that there are some error there. Not necessarily because of the error, but because of the human, because of the fluid nature of the human being. You see my hands, no? It's not straight. You see there are angles all around it. You see, that is natural. If I were to create it on a computer, it would be different. Correct. If you go to the river, if you go to the mountain, you don't just see a straight line like this up, you get to the mountain. You need to move like this, up, down, right, left, up, down, until you get to the top of the mountain. If you take maybe water, you pour it somewhere into a pattern, it will take the pattern of what is happening there. It is fluid. So we also should be fluid when in our existence, in the way that we rapport with nature and with other human beings. And when we do this, people will understand that you are like them. You are mimicking them in the way that they naturally are. So they will connect with you easier than when everything is perfect, there are no angles, there are no imperfection, there are no mistakes. It will be difficult for people to connect. That is why, of course, you see that most big companies today, they try to bring in the human connection in the way that they do their narration. A good example would be Nike, for example. So there are reasons for it. Story works, and it works almost all the time.
How much, sometimes we share too much. There's this thing of sharing too much and then sharing and not sharing enough. How do you find that balance? Because social media now, everybody wants to know everything about you. but that it does not necessarily result in what increased sales or increased marketability. How much do you share?
Well, that is an interesting question. How much should we share? Well, everything that is too much is bad. So
Absolutely.
everything that is not enough also, we can't necessarily say it's bad, but it's not good. It's not good enough, no? For the fact that it's not enough. So we're going to strike a balance between what is too much and what is too little. And for us to do this, we need to go back again to what I was saying before, that we need to know who is in front of us. If we know who is in front of us, and particularly when we are telling business story, which is different from any other type of story, we need to know, what do we want out of this object? What do we want out of this conversation? If we know that we entered into this delicate of balance of dancing, but you are not going, you know that you are not there just for the dance. The dance is to lead you somewhere. When you have danced to a point, you need to stop. Otherwise, the purpose of you getting into that conversation is to dance, which is not storytelling for business. Storytelling for business is you are in this communication to create a connection for the purpose of, you decide that, your call to action.
Right.
If that is clear,
right.
When you are telling your story, you should know, when is the customer or the client or the audience, when have they got it to the point of neutrality? Okay, now, say maybe, for example, you are meeting a client for the first time, a cold client, for example. You know that cold client or cold people or cold person, in the sense that you are meeting the person for the first time. All of us do the same thing.
Yes.
We block. We just block because we don't want to, I don't trust you. And
yes, you don't expose everything.
Yeah, exactly. So what we do with storytelling is to make sure that we move it from like this, to relax. If you are a professional storyteller, you should know when the hands move from like this to like this. If you know,
right, so now even that open.
Exactly. If you don't know, even you are going to probably tell the story forever, because you don't know what is happening, and you're not going to be able to leverage story in that way. So what is too much story sharing or too much storytelling is where we're supposed to stop, but we keep on talking. And what is too little is when we didn't share enough to be able to lubricate, it's like the oil, to lubricate the individual so that it can be in a fluid mode. We just say one thing, we believe that we have said it all. No, we need to talk enough to get the individual to relate with us and say, okay, we are one-on-one, we are together. We like, you connect the heart and the mind and the soul together. So everything is the same now. Then you can make a proposal. Then because in social media, there's supposed to be engagement. And this engagement can either be maybe positive or negative. The people are either going to like you or hate you. They cannot just simply be neutral. If it is neutral, it means you are not really touching people. Because the purpose of sharing is for you to cause a reaction. If the people are not reacting to you, you need to ask yourself, why? Are they not seeing you? So I think we need to have measure to know when it is too much for us and when it is not enough. It is in the balance that we must stay. Even if it is 1 minute, you can still have the basic structure of a story, which is the beginning or the introduction, the middle, and the end.
Okay, let me let me interrupt you a second, because so we talk about those very first seconds, catching the audience within the
Mm-hmm.
first 3 seconds, or otherwise we lose them.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the part where a lot of content creators, a lot of social media people fail. Those first 3 seconds are key. So I can swipe past you in no time. You can have the best product, the best middle and end, but those first 3 seconds, could you speak to that? How do we engage the audience within those critical moments?
All right. Now, we need to understand that we are dealing with emotion here, because when we are talking of content of 5 minutes or storytelling in general, we are basically dealing with emotion in that we are stopping the people and say, hey, now pay attention to the elephant in the room,
Correct.
pay attention to the green light, pay attention to the red light, because all along the red light has been there, but you never pay attention, so you don't realize that that is red light. So what do? We are going to provoke them in some ways, maybe with a question. Have you heard that today you can no longer take this train? Why? People are curious now.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Do you know the world is going to end in 2 years' time? Really? People are curious. This is why. Because, when you throw maybe a kind of a curiosity like that, people want to understand, is it because now Donald Trump, I think Donald Trump was saying, or somebody that was reviewing him was saying that no press is a bad press, because you know that during his presidency, it was very good. He's throwing out a lot of things there to see what we stick in the world. He was very good. Oh, there are a lot of people that are very good like that, though. Either what is interesting and what is the mission is to stop the people and give them something to concentrate on. Otherwise, people are just scrolling on social media, from one page to another, they are entering into their own self indoctrination, or just slowly, or something. That is what you want to do with your content. Either you put something there that stop the scroll so that they can what is that? You could do this by a statistic. 20 people died. A lot of journalists do this a lot. 20 people died in Verona today. 20 people died. 20 people died. You want to understand, because 20 people died in your city. You want to find out. Perhaps that is not the main story, because the main story might be what they want to tell you, what you should avoid so that you don't die. So if we put a headline that sort of become provoking, revealing, shocking, people will want to know more in the first few sentences, or in the first few frames, or in the first few seconds. Yeah. So we need to use those attention grabbing, so that if we want people to pay attention, it's attention grabbing. You are grabbing attention, people will pay attention. In my course, I have a training program called Storytelling Mastering. I did an ad for it, a kind of an introduction to it. So I put that story back again there, and going there to film a bit and showing it there, asking the question, why do you think all these different people are coming from different parts of the world, from US, China, and Japan, coming to touch the statue of Juliet? One part of our breast, the right breast, is shiny. I don't know if you have seen the image. It's shiny because people come, everybody come to touch the breast. That is the story about it. In that people don't care whether it is real or not. What people really want is a feeling. Can you make me feel something? So, as a man thinker, that is a book. An English writer by the name James Allen said that the artists are the creator of the other world, meaning the world that we don't see. By that he means hair, heaven, fire. When we die, where we go. Now, what that means is that by storytelling, we can create a world, even though that world have never existed before. And that world will become real. Because a lot of scientists, sociologists, and psychologists are still trying to understand even what is the very concept of reality. What does it even mean to be real? Does it mean because me and you, we are talking now? Anyway, I don't want to go deep on that, but what I want to say is that look at history, for example, how we frame our history. Yes. What becomes real for us? What is culture? What is identity? I remember, for example, in one of my books, another book that I titled Crisis of Identity, I would say, make an example of myself. I say, okay, let's even understand what we are talking about here about identity. Now, I am Obehi. That is true. I am a man. That is also true. I am in Nigeria. That is true. I am also in Africa, and that is true. I am an immigrant. That is true. I am a husband. That is true. And I'm also a father. That is also equally true. Now I say, okay, if we put all this together, is it contradicting? It is not contradicting, which means that even the very identity that we have is complex. We, as human beings, are complex, and we live in a very complex world. So the story that we tell help us to create the world that we have. Now, imagine yourself standing on the side of a river. The bridge have never existed. You are just there on the river, one side of the river. Then you say, one day we could build a bridge, something that connects this part of the river to the other side of the river, so that we could just walk across it. You see, bridge is not natural. We are the one that create the bridge. For several millennia, people look at the river, they get to it, they cannot cross it. But until some people say, let's put something across the river and cross it. When the person said it had not happened before. But you need to say the story to other people, that because one person cannot build a bridge. So how do you make other people to believe what is not there, that it can be real? That is the power of storytelling. Now, you see, President J.F. Kennedy told the American people, by the end of this century, we put a man in moon. We will go to the moon and come back. America have never done this before. But that man saw the vision, and he sold the vision to the American public. Because the people had faith in him, believed in him, they did it. Which means that as human beings, as a people, I was saying this one yesterday in our program, it was an interesting audio room talking about using story as a tool within the African diaspora community. I was saying that the reason we are not able to do most things is because we don't act as a group, as a people. We act as individual. And when we act as individual, in most of the cases, we will fail. But if we act as a group, almost all the time we will get anything at all, anything. If you see the pyramids, it was built by people who had an idea of what they want. They put an effort behind it. If somebody was saying that if the civilization that we have today, the human being were to disappear from the earth, in about 100 years from now, you will come back to look at the earth. All the buildings in the world will disappear. They will be overtaken. All the skyscrapers we are seeing in New York and Chicago, all of them will disappear. But one of the things that will remain is the pyramid, because it is so magnificently made. So what I'm talking about is that when the people organize themselves, they can do anything. But how do you organize the people? You need story. You see, in Germany, before the war, before the Second World War, the people that would later be massacred, millions of them were like every other person in Germany. They were having friends, getting married, going to work, doing everything together like every other normal society. Until a man by the name Hitler came and told them a different kind of story. And of course,
Wow.
you know what happened after that.
Wow.
That is the power of story.
Story. Wow.
So
Love
we must look for a way to reverse that. That story can be used to enslave a people. Many of you are members of the African diaspora. You understand what I mean by that.
Yes.
Story can also be used to build a people. The choice is ours. The instrument is there. It has been here for several thousands of years. It is the reason the pyramid were built. It is the reason we have society that we have today. Otherwise, we'll be roaming in the forest like every other animal. Take a good example of the credit system, for example. You go to the bank, you tell them to give you money. They give you thousands of dollars. You haven't paid it. They give it to you. Why? Because we have told ourselves a story that based on this story is going to work. In collaboration.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In collaboration, one man is inside a hole, is digging inside a hole. If he knows, talking about maybe, for example, the oil workers know that go inside the ground to dig, or the gold digger. Somebody is up there on the floor, on the up of the ground. If the person on the up, they pull the person inside the hole out, the person inside will die. But the one inside the ground trusts the one on top because they have a story. If we don't have story, we will perish. Thank you.